Sound awakens something deep within. Welcome to this podcast, a space to slow down, tune in, and return to the song of your soul. In this episode, I am joined by Gail Lynn, who is a visionary inventor, frequency medicine pioneer, and the creator of the Harmonic Egg, a sound and light resonance chamber designed to activate the body's natural ability to heal. With a background that spans telecommunications, automotive engineering, and film, Gail brings a rare blend of science, intuition, and ancient wisdom to her work. And I also want to thank Jean Hansen for inviting me to experience the Harmonic Egg at Realign Your Wellness Center in Mesa, Arizona. Hi, Gail. Thank you so much for joining today. It's a pleasure to have you. I want to start off with asking you, can you take us back to the moment when your personal health journey began guiding you toward energy medicine?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. And I think it even goes back to my grandmother's and my mother's health journey that started my journey. Because I saw that my grandmother was sick. She had high blood pressure. My grandfather had high blood pressure. My grandmother had diabetes. My mom had high blood pressure and diabetes. And I started to look at the lifestyle. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, well, my grandmother works at a bakery and she eats danishes off the assembly line. So that probably has something to do with her diabetes. But my mom was so stubborn and she said, it's genetic. If because grandma had diabetes, I have diabetes, you're going to have diabetes. I don't have diabetes because I don't follow that lifestyle. I've really cut out
Right.
the sugar, the refined sugar. But I carry a lot of stress. And so when I was 17 years old, I started to get migraine headaches and I didn't know what they were. Had no idea what a migraine was. My mom was really scared because I couldn't see. I lost my vision. It was an ocular migraine. And then the level of pain was 100 on the scale of 1 to 10. And, my mom was thinking, do I have to take her to the hospital? We didn't have a lot of money. And she had 3 kids, and my dad was an assembly line worker. So I told her I had an appetite for like grapes and apples. So she goes to the store, and it just seemed like maybe there was something mineral, depletion. I couldn't figure it out. So for 23 years, I went on a journey to try to figure out why these migraine headaches were plaguing me. And until I found sound and light therapy, I didn't know what to even look for. We're vibrational beings of light from source, from God. And so, we really should be healing with sound and light. And here we are now into a new generation of medicine where we're seeing frequencies and sound and light. But these migraines, I went through parasite cleanses. I did chiropractic. I did yoga. I did meditation. I did heavy metal detoxing. I had, liver tests, kidney tests. Um, Boy, I had Epstein-Barr test, Lyme tests, and I did have some Lyme disease. And so there's a thing called dysautonomia that can cause migraine headaches. I mean, I just went on this journey and I've been writing this article that I keep updating because more recently I found out that tight hamstrings, H. pylori, all can be part of why people get migraine headaches. So migraine headaches are such a mystery in the medical world because there's such a combination of different things that it could be. I mean, it could be a food, it could be wine, the sulfates in wine, it could be dark chocolate. So there's so many reasons why. So this started my journey in health, and I thought it was just a hobby. I thought, well, this is just a hobby. I'm an automotive, like project manager, engineer type. And then I was a telecommunications project manager. And then I was the COO for a Hollywood company. And that's who I defined myself to be. I didn't know that I was going to find myself in this industry, being a pioneer to really help people to get their health back and sell hope.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So you had careers in telecommunications, film, and engineering. Was there a common thread that eventually led you to Harmonic Egg? Of course, your personal health journey, but what was that thread?
I think it was the personal health journey more than anything, but what I find that is very comical in the universe is I had to have that engineering, hands-on, tangible building experience. And then I had to have international business that I learned in telecom, and then also the intangible, like things happen in the cloud, just like healing happens, energy. You can't see energy. Energy just
Right.
helps you, and you have to watch your energy, you have to watch your words, and so there's this intangible. And then Hollywood with the being on camera and the film industry and extemporaneous communications and learning from who I was dating at the time was Elvis Presley's stepbrother. And who better to
Oh,
learn about, extemporaneous communication and showmanship than somebody who grew up around Elvis, right?
right. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of experience right there and coming up with something unique, right? So tell me a little bit about what did the early creative process of building Harmonic Egg look like? Was there a defining moment for you?
Oh my gosh, so funny. And I don't get asked this question enough because it is something that I want to inspire people. If you have an idea, don't give up on it. Keep going with it. What did Thomas Edison said? He found, some people say it was 999 ways that a light bulb wouldn't work, and that 1,000th time the light bulb worked. So he had 999 failures or 999 ways it didn't work, right? So you can look at the
Right,
glass half full or the glass half empty. But being an
right,
inventor, being the creator of this, which is a misnomer because I didn't invent this. This kind of came through me. It didn't come from me. But because I pulled that information from the universe, from the universal wisdom, from my higher self, and was able to bring it through, it's a lot of work. In this 3D earth plane, it was a lot of work. So the idea started coming in like a dream state, the idea started showing up. And because I had the engineering background and I worked in CAD and
right,
drafting, I was thinking, I can draw this. And so I had one of my friends come out and he said, "Can you draw this for me?" I said, "So here's a top view, here's a side view, here's a cutout view, here's how it should look. Here's kind of the size it needs to be to fit a person inside." And he said, "I think I can do this for you."
right,
So we took a year to do it, and it was hilarious because he would get mad at me and I would get mad at him. I said, "This is not what the vision was." He's like, "Well, then I don't understand it." And so he said, "Let's just do this dome and people can sit underneath this dome." I said, "No, that's not the vision." And he's like, "You know what? I
right,
quit." And I'm like, "You know what? You're fired." And we're still the best of friends, but you know how this
right,
creative process works. And he would be at my center, and because he couldn't make noise because I had clients during the day, he would come in after the clients work all through the night. I'd come back in the morning and see what he did, and I would like, "That's not it." And I said, "I can't
right.
really describe it. Once I see it and I can feel it, I'll know that's correct." And he was like, "I don't even know what you're trying to feel." And so I was looking at something online that really helped. It was atrium in a mall in the United
Mhm.
Kingdom. And that's when everything clicked. This is how we're going to do it. Because we tried to bend the wood and it's so dry here in Colorado, it just kept cracking. And so we
Right,
tried everything. We tried all these different ways to bend wood. But that there was a key there from that atrium that popped into my feed. And we all know that these things happen. There are no
right.
accidents. People tell me, "Oh, I saw your video on Gaia TV and I wasn't even looking for it." And that was in like 2020. 5 years later, people are still telling me that just popped up in my feed. How does a video from 5 years ago with all the information on the internet just pop up?
I know.
So,
That's true.
it's so fun, and so we worked on it, we worked on it, we worked on it, and we finally had a prototype. It looked like it was gonna fall, f like, f just fall over and fall on top of somebody. So people would look at it go, "You want me to go in there?" So I had a DO doctor, a lady who talks to plants and, does plant music. I had, an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, just a bunch of healers. I said, "I need you guys to test this. We need to, for 6 months, we need to test this. We need to figure out how long should the session be? how many days in a row can you do it? Or how many days can
Right.
you do it? And then how long does it need to integrate? And so we
Mm-hmm.
did this for about 6 months and we said, okay, 40 minutes of music, 10 minutes of silence, and once a week. We tried 2 days in a row. It was too much. We tried 3 days in a row. It was really too much. We tried just different combinations, 11 minutes of silence. We tried 20 minutes of silence. We tried an hour session. So we just kind of had this whole
Experimented.
beta. Yeah. And it was so fun because that's my background is experimenting, quality auditor, engineering, telecommunication, just really trying to test what's going to work, what's not going to work. It was so fun. And then we got it done and I contacted a manufacturer that I had contacted early on. And he said, you know
Right.
what? This can't be made. This would be an engineering marvel. There's no way you can make a large wooden egg. And I said, well, you know what? Walt Disney said, if you could dream it, you can do it. And he said to me, you're not Walt Disney. So when you tell me I can't do something, just get out of my way because I am going to show you that I can do it because that's just my Scorpio personality. So once we had the prototype, I called this guy again and I was like, ha 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 ha, we did it. And he was like, oh, let me see it. He became my first manufacturer to do the first version of the eggs because he drove 7 hours to come to my location and he inspected it and he said, "Okay, I see where we're going to have issues, but it was there. It was tangible. He could see it and then he could see what it was going to take to build it."
That's awesome. Yeah. And the way you kind of kept going and did not give up, that's amazing. So the next question I was going to ask you about this divine guidance and how the inner listening played in in your invention. And you kind of touched upon it, but can you go a little deeper into it, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm stubborn, and a lot of people that are your listeners are probably stubborn as well. We're human beings. And, we keep hitting our head against a brick wall and we just keep doing it. We keep doing it. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Right.
So it came to a point where I felt like before we actually had the prototype, I felt like it just wasn't coming through. There was some little piece missing and I couldn't figure out what it was. And my guides played a very funny joke on me and crashed a car into me actually. And I got into a really bad car accident. So there's a girl, she's going this way, I'm going this way. This traffic light was red, but in Colorado we have these LED lights, they're stoplights. But when the snow blows and sticks on them, they don't heat up enough to melt the snow. So they basically cover the light. You can't see if it's red, yellow, or green. Very dangerous. So she couldn't see if it was red, yellow, or green. She was 16 years old, just got her driver's license. And so she just kept going. And I was coming through a green light and I could see my guides at that moment, like, we're going to have to do this to her. And she's going to get the rest of the download once we hit her pretty hard. So smack. I spun around the intersection. I had a near death experience. A gentleman had opened the passenger door because he couldn't open the driver's door to see if I was okay. And at that
Right.
moment, I knew him. I said to him, I said, "Oh, it's so good to see you." And he's like, "I don't know you." I mean, and at that moment, I knew everything and everybody. And it was really surreal. I called him later and apologized because he said, "You really freaked me out, but I just wanted to give you my number because I knew she ran through the red light, but I had to get to work, so I had to leave. And I just wanted to be a witness." And I said, "Oh, that's
Right.
fine." So I felt like that smack was what smacked me into the different reality for me to finish the download. I mean, it wasn't ideal. I wouldn't really choose that kind of a lesson. But when you're stubborn and the universe is trying to get your attention, sometimes they got to really hit you hard.
Got it. And it could happen in any way.
Yeah.
just to
Yeah,
hit you
and I
hard.
kinda need those really hard lessons,
Yeah.
to it's just me. Now that I'm been using the egg for all these years now, I don't need those hard lessons anymore. I'm tuned in to my body, I'm tuned into my intuition, I listen, I manifest. I used to make things happen because I thought I had to force a round peg into a square hole or a square, peg into a round hole. And I don't do that anymore because I know that if I let things flow, that the universe is going to provide what is needed. I might not know the how, but I say this is what I want, and the how shows up in sometimes a very uh funny way. Sometimes it's a really funny joke from the universe on how things show up when you ask what. And you don't expect it to show up that way. It just does.
Surrender.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a huge piece. And that kind of helps you to kind of flow and just be and not kind of get into the habit of doing, doing, doing. So that's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing to be.
I made my first marriage happen and that ended in divorce. I made my second marriage happen, that ended in divorce. So obviously that wasn't working for me. And I had a mentor say to me one day, he passed a note to me when I was sitting in a conference and I was real antsy. I was kind of like, was this over yet? I'm kind of bored. And he passed a note to me and it said LIFE. Let it flow effortlessly.
That's beautifully said.
And
Yep.
I have taken that, and I put it on a bracelet, actually. I have a bracelet that says, "Let it flow effortlessly."
Oh. Yeah, that's a nice reminder. That's true. It's like how all of these things kind of flow magically when you let it go. Yep. So, about the harmonic egg, why sound and light? What made that combination so powerful for you?
It started out with Edgar Casey. Edgar Casey was, considered the sleeping prophet, if people don't know, in the 30s, 40s, maybe. I think he's probably born in the 20s because he passed away in the 40s. So
Right.
maybe he was born sooner than that, but he was called the sleeping prophet. And I read all of his books. I was just obsessed with what he had to say and how he could energetically tune into people from a distance and know what was going on with them and help them to heal. And so that started to really get me thinking because as an engineer, everything needed to be tangible for me. Except for
Right.
in telecom, it was like a phone rings and another phone rings, and there's nothing tangible. It happens in this cloud. They call it in the cloud. So it started to really resonate with me that everything's energy. And he said in his last writing, in a book called Aura or Auras, it's on my shelf here. If somebody would bring together spiritual forces of sound and the spiritual forces of light, it'd be a great modality for the future. And then when I got to the point, I was at my breaking point at age 37, automotive, telecom, Hollywood, and like moving from Michigan to Texas to California, back to Texas, traveling all over the world, having two divorces. And I was only 37. I lived like 20 lifetimes by the time I was 37. I felt like I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. And when I had a medical test done, I found I had severe cardiovascular stress and my heart was on the verge of an instant heart attack. So I knew I needed to change some things, and that's when I found sound and light therapy and really started. That came to me very serendipitously, and I started to think, well, if we're vibrational beings of light from God, from Source, from the universe, why are we healing with sound and light? Well, then I traced it back to the ancients. The Egyptians used sound and light, and the Greeks and the Sumerians. And, I just traced it back to these ancient times where we were using that. So then I thought, where did we go wrong? How did we get so hoodwinked into thinking that this is woo woo? Sound and light is woo woo. But yet we all believe we just take a pill and we're magically going to heal. Or we get our body cuts open and they rip out organs and that's going to help us. That to me is woo woo. The non woo woo is the natural medicine. Our bodies are amazing devices. They're amazing machines that can heal by themselves. And as long as we put our bodies in the right environment and we're balanced in our nervous system, we can heal. We can heal without anything. It's a natural innate ability for us to heal. That's the body that we have. Our bodies are the most amazing machines, if you want to call it a machine or technology, that's ever been invented.
Yep. So, and then you were talking about how ancient wisdom, right? So, this ancient wisdom also help you come up with this sacred geometry structure of the egg.
Yes, I started looking at sacred geometry. I started looking at nature for what nature is, putting out there from God, from the universe. I looked at Wilhelm Reich. I looked at Nikola Tesla. I looked at people just throughout history, Royal Rife, and how they were trying to do this a long time ago, but it never really got through because how do you make money off of telling somebody, "Oh, just sit under a blue light," which they do in hospitals for jaundice babies, but
Right.
why didn't we expand it any further than that? Why did we know that blue light worked for jaundice babies and then we stopped right there?
Right.
And we know the sunlight can really help heal the body. We know people do sun gazing. We know, but you don't really make any money off of that. So people wanted to find ways to make money off of this, but it wasn't there. How about draping a silk red scarf over you to absorb the energy of the nanometers of the red, light spectrum, the red color spectrum. You're not going to make a lot of money off that. So I think greed has taken over, and that's why we are where we are. So now we have to go back. There's a funny meme of like the Cro-Magnon man and and the caveman and then human. And then you see, go back, we screwed up, go back. And so I feel like we need to go back to go forward.
Very well said. Yes. And what was the resistance or the doubt that you felt while creating this?
Well, that's a great question. I felt like I'd be ridiculed. I felt like I would be, like ostracized, and that, I want everybody to like me. And when you put yourself out to the public, as I now know, because I have a lot of really, famous, quote unquote, famous friends now, and they say, Gail, don't listen to what they write about you. Don't listen to what they say about you because they don't know you. And on a small scale, this is what I'm experiencing now. And this was my biggest fear. I don't want to be ridiculed. I didn't want to be harassed. I didn't want to be in the public eye because now there's also energy that comes at you. Every time someone watches this podcast, their energy is coming at me, it's coming at you. And you have to learn how to clear that. You have to learn how to, disperse that energy because then when you're in the public eye, people are, think about this is what makes me think about I had posters on my wall of John Stamos, and people had posters on their wall of Farrah Fawcett. Think about the energy that they were absorbing. I mean, everybody around the world had these posters on their wall that they were obsessed with and, always sending that um famous energy. I don't know what word I want to use. But so this is kind of what we have to deal with. And that's the biggest fear. I didn't want to deal with that. But I also knew that this was something that humanity needs and they do need it. The testimonials that we get are amazing. And I can't imagine not having done this.
Yeah. And what were some of the challenges that you had to go through during this whole process?
Well, that was one challenge is to get over that. Another challenge
Mhm.
was grew up in automotive in the 80s, and it was 80% men, 20% women, and the women were the
Right.
secretaries. The women, there was very few women engineers, very few women CAD operators, very few women. And so in my head, in my subconscious, women don't invent things, men invent things. So I had to overcome that challenge. And then I had to overcome this isn't an ego or a feminist statement, but there's a lot of men running companies out there that don't want to deal with a powerful woman. And so they just want to criticize you and tell you you're wrong. And they want to, hold you down. And there's no holding me down. No one can hold me down. And they just need to get out of my way. So then you get criticized for, being that woman that they call you the B word. Or it's just that they can't deal with the powerful divine feminine. And that's their journey. but then they want to call you the B word and you're terrible and, hard to work with. Am I hard to work with? Yes. Am I perfectionist? Yes. Do I want perfection from my team? Do I want perfection from myself? Do I want to make sure that this is the highest level of integrity and that it would never do any harm? Do I constantly test and do I constantly lose sleep over that? Yes, I do. So that's been another challenge. I don't want any of my egg guardians to ever be in fear or desperation. I want them all to be in abundance and love. But that's not possible. There's people out there that their journey is going to be to have the struggle and to learn how to run a business and grow a business. But because I'm a recovering Catholic, that Catholic guilt, kind of kicks in and I'm like, "Oh, they're not doing well in their business." And then I take that on. So I'm still learning how to not take that on. We're not a royalty franchise driven business. We are a cooperative business model and we want to cooperate with each other. We have a private Facebook page. We have the peer to peer support from the other egg guardians. We have owner calls every month where I'm there supporting the center owners. It's all very cooperative and very divine feminine, but that doesn't prevent me from feeling guilty if someone's struggling. I try to support them, but then now I have 150 locations in 14 countries. So I'm dealing with different cultures. And, I'm an American, I'm brash, and I was like, and sometimes I'm not soft. I'm like, you know what? Get yourself back into the saddle and, get back up on the horse and go. Don't give up. Well, Gail, like, oh, I'm just this. And I'm like, get out there and get after it. And sometimes they don't want to hear that. So that's been a really struggle. There's been just, every day there's a challenge, but it gets easier and easier to overcome them. Wayne Dyer once said, do something every day that scares you. And after doing something every day that has scared me for the last, maybe 30 years, nothing scares me anymore.
So you're comfortable doing the uncomfortable things now.
Absolutely.
That's good. Um, and how do you help yourself with when you say you're absorbing this energy? How do you let go of it? What's your quick practice tip?
Well, because I can only do the egg once a week, I also have a home unit called the LiFT that you can pop in for maintenance. So sometimes that's the clearing energy, but I have a really simple thing when I feel it and I'm not near my technology. And it's as simple as the intention of clearing. And you've done some podcasts with Steve, and he talks about intention. What is whisperology? Love that
Yeah.
podcast. So it's very good. And then I just say clear, clear, clear. And sometimes I even do this, like I'm just cutting off that energy and I say clear, clear, clear. One of my favorite numbers is three. Three is a very magical
Okay.
number for me. So threes, sixes, nines, very magical numbers for me. So I just say clear, clear, clear. And that's a simple, quick way for me to do it. And there's so many techniques. People use like a zip up, technique. People have used just taking their shoes off and finding a piece of grass and grounding or putting their hands in the dirt, just grounding. That's all great. Nature's great. Um, I will go out and see my horse if I'm home and, kind of have her help me ground and send that
Right.
energy to Mother Gaia so that she can transmute that. And I've gotten really good at transmuting energies. So I'll feel a negative energy and I can send it back to the universe. Now I have that power never to harm anybody again because I never want to send it back to the universe to go to somebody else. So I
Right.
ask never to harm anybody else again.
That's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that quick tip, like the clear, clear, clear. It's just very quick and it's like, done, I'm good. Can you share a powerful story from a client that just stayed with you about the harmonic egg experience?
Yes, and I share this a lot. My goal is to every time somebody hears one of my podcasts, I want them to say, every time I listen to Gail, I learned something new. So that's my thing. But this is a story that is timeless and your audience is going to be different than other audiences. So I'm going to share this one. And it happens to be my boyfriend. So he was married for 27 years, and after his wife passed away unexpectedly, she was probably I think mid 50s, which is so young. Um, he had a heart attack, and now I believe that we can have a broken heart. And I think it broke his heart. That was the love of his life. And so 27 years and then she's gone. So he has a heart attack and he gets a pacemaker and he has to have stents put in and, the whole thing. So, 10 years later, I'm with him and it's time to change the battery and the pacemaker. Now he's been doing sessions. Sometimes I think he just humors me, but he does ask for sessions. And he says, I do want to get in the egg this week. And because I have one at my house. And so I make him dinner on one day a week. He cooks for me like 4 days a week. But I cook for him one day a week and he'll come over, have a session. I cook him a really nice meal, yada, yada. So I had a lot of medical doctors and health professionals that came into my center. So that day that he was telling me I've got to get the battery changed, the doctor knew that they were going to run his cardiac output number and his ejection fraction number to make sure that the heart was still functioning at the same. Was told he lost 40% of the heart when the heart issue happened. And so he said, give me his ejection fraction cardiac output number, and I'll tell you how much of the heart is still dead. Okay, great. So I get the numbers for him, give them to him. And Corey looks at him and he's like, these are his numbers? And I said, yeah. And he said, Gail, this is a fully functioning heart. And so I think that we can regenerate our heart. We can regenerate our liver. Our body can heal from any trauma. The body doesn't know disease by name. We've been hoodwinked to believe that, if someone says you're going to die in 6 months, guess how many, months they usually live? 6 months. Because we take this and we embody that.
Subconscious.
And
Yep.
we have free will. So stop doing that, people. We need to know that nobody gets to put an expiration date on you. No one gets to tell you what your body can't do. Forget that. So his heart has regenerated. I don't get it. So I like to tease him. I said, well, it's because you just love me so much and your heart grew like the Grinch. And, but I mean, he's done, 50, 60, sessions. He's done a lot of sessions. And so I think that has helped the heart to regenerate because clearly the numbers showed a fully functioning heart. And we did try to go back and find the numbers from we ordered a record, we did a records release to try to find the original numbers. So we never found them. So I can also say as an engineer and as a researcher, well, maybe he was lied to when he had the heart attack and 40% of the heart didn't die because we can't find those original numbers. So, I always try to be the biggest skeptic, but he was told that's what happened. They put in the pacemaker, they put in the stents. I want to believe that they were true and honest with him, and that really did happen. But now it's fully functioning. He still has the pacemaker, but it doesn't go off. It doesn't really, he has to do the little scans with the little electronic mouse and he puts it up to that and sends the numbers in, but he doesn't need it. It's just
That's
there.
beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. That's like a heartfelt story that regenerated the heart. It's beautiful. And if you could whisper one message to every woman on a healing journey, what would that be?
Listen to your body. It speaks to you.
Yep. Beautiful. And I did get to try the harmonic egg thanks to you and Jean Hansen for giving me this opportunity. Um, I should tell you, I just enjoyed it, especially the position Jean put me in, the zero gravity. I loved it. And it was just those first 40 minutes with the sound and 10 minutes in silence. I kind of went in with an open mind. I did not know what to expect. I was just sitting there and just closing my eyes, and I could feel the pulsating starting from my back, lower back. And I'm just conscious. I was aware of it, and I just kept noticing it, and then it slowly moved upward. And then at one point, I think my hand started twitching, my right hand. I didn't know, or I couldn't understand what was going on. Um, and I think during the silent phase was when I felt like everything was moving within me, like the fluids were moving, the blood was moving upstream. So it was beautiful. Like I came out kind of hazy because of the position, probably. I'm still restoring because my body asks for uh, rest because it's the fifth day today. But I did enjoy it completely. And thanks to you and Jean Hansen for letting me try this.
Well, Jean Hansen is the owner and operator of the Mesa, Arizona egg. So we'll do a shout out to her. And she did graciously give you a professional courtesy. And I'm so grateful for that. So
Yeah.
we'll say hi to Jean. So the hand twitching, sometimes energies get stuck. And what I've found is as the energies are starting to clear, you have these involuntary movements. Like I'll have people say, my leg just jumped, or my hand twitched, or my arm just flew up, and I didn't do that because the
Yep.
energies are clearing. It could also be, nerves healing depending on the
Mhm.
twitch. So nerve endings and nerves healing. I know with the egg, the chakras do work on healing. You maybe started
Mhm.
at your root chakra, and that's our survival chakra. It's associated with the knees, the eyes, the mouth, the ears, any of our senses. And what I had a doctor tell me one time, he said, when I work on somebody, I don't know I just go from root to crown. I close the crown
Right.
and I'm done. But he
Yep.
said in the egg, it went from root to throat, to heart, to throat, to root, to third eye,
Okay.
to heart. And he said, there's no way that he said, there's no way a human being would be able to really regulate and tune into a person's body. There's no one size fits all. So he said, for
Sure.
me, it was really brilliant that the egg had an innate intelligence, a conscious technology that is now a modern day mystery, school technology that's like the 21st century grail of vibration that's on the planet, that
Right.
has this intelligence to know, okay, if I worked on the root, now that threw the throat out of balance. Let me work on the throat. Oh, that just threw the heart out of balance. Let me work on the heart. And by the time you finish and you're sitting in that silence, everything's just kind of like the matrix is like and reorganizing like a defrag, if people know what a defrag is on the old computers. And so then it just starts to come back into balance. And that silence is really important. And there
Yep.
was a book by A.J. Still that I read that helped, invent chiropractic care. And he said, when you do chiropractic, you need to let the client or patient sit in silence and just be straight for 15 to 30 minutes so that they're integrating properly. So what happens now, we go to the joint and then it's like, boom, here, crack, 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 get up, get out in your car, get back out in traffic. And we're not holding those adjustments as long as we would if we just would sit in silence and just let the body integrate, and that would hold a lot longer. So I think we need to go back to that methodology as well. So when I created the egg, I wanted people to connect to their higher self. I wanted people to be able to listen to their body, to feel the twitching, to feel the vibrations, to feel the energy of what was happening. People will have sharp pains and they're like, oh my gosh, I had a sports injury 20 years ago and I felt this sharp pain where that happened. I also find that it will help people to heal at a systemic level. So a lot of times we
Right.
just put Band-Aids on everything.
Right.
Oh, I have, high blood pressure. Let me just take a pill. Let me not look for the root cause, that it might be that I'm just dehydrated and I need to drink more water or something physical. But I want people to really tune into their bodies and start to take their power back. I want them to start to go to the doctor and say, this is what I think is going on with me. I'm feeling it here, here, and here. Can we test my liver? Because I'm getting some pains here in the right side.
Right.
Can we test something? And then instead of saying, oh my gosh, doctor, what's wrong with me? How many pills should I take and when should I take them? We need to take our power back and say, this is what I think is going on with me. You be one of my team members. I'm the CEO of my body. You're now hired to tell me, you're a contractor now to tell me what's going on. And
Right.
then the doctor is your team player and not the CEO of your body.
Yep. And I think that happens in silence, as you've said, because it gives you that awareness to kind of slow down and be mindful and just watch your breath and kind of follow it all along from your toe to head and just let it be. Have that internal gaze. And that's what egg gave me. Those 15 minutes, I could just can. I could just feel every cell in my body. I'm like, do I give this time to myself? If I
Yeah.
do this every day or maybe every other day, how would it feel? How would I would know myself more. I would know how I'm feeling
Yeah.
within. And I can pinpoint to that emotion or to that pain or to that feeling and say, okay, this happened because of this. So I like that space it created. And although it's an enclosed space, it was nice. It was cozy. It didn't feel claustrophobic like a lot of enclosed spaces. So it just felt like, okay, I'm being held. You know, I'm being
Yes.
held gently and cradled in this space to just be and just kind of let myself in this moment.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. And
It
thank
was
you for creating that.
You're welcome. I think with the golden ratio and the sacred geometry and the egg being where life came from, we all get to go back to that womb. We get to go back
Yes.
into the womb inside the egg. And so it's a cocoon, it's a womb. The kids call it a spaceship, but either way, it's just like this place. There's nothing else for you to do in there.
Nope.
You can stare at the walls, you can look at the light, you can try to, like some guys will criticize the design, be like, I can do better. You just sit there and listen to your body. Don't be looking
Yep.
for how you're going to redesign it or anything. So have no expectations like you did. And just get in that space that's like a womb space. People with claustrophobia don't really have a lot of issues because it does feel so like a warm hug, a
Spacious.
womb, a
Yep.
cocoon. It's very spacious in there. It's bigger than an inside of a small car. And and then if you can give yourself that gift every day of just what did it? I think it was her name Madara Cromwell that you interviewed,
Uh-huh, I
Mandara.
did.
Yeah, and she said,
Mandara.
give yourself that gift of 30 minutes of just sitting, just
Yep.
sit with yourself. I mean, I tend to be guilty of not doing that as well. But I told my team, everybody gets a paid 30 minutes of self care a day. You're paid during your day. You're paid for 30 minutes of self care. So you better do it because you're paid to do it. But then I realized I have to do it too. So
Right.
it's hard for me to find 30 minutes. But then I'm thinking, how much don't I love myself if I can't find 30 minutes in a whole day for me? But what I did then, I wake up every morning and do 10 minutes of yoga. And then in the afternoon, I do 10 minutes of yoga. And the evening, I do 10 minutes of yoga. So I spread that 30 minutes out
Yep.
so that I feel like I'm still doing my 30 minutes, but I
Yes.
haven't done it all in one full swoop. I've
Yep.
noticed that it's really meditative and really golden for me in the morning, and then I start my day. Then when the
Yep.
afternoon gets a little chaotic, I take that 10 minutes, which gives me like re-energized for the rest of the day. And the evening
Yep.
before bed, that last 10 minutes, it's been brilliant for me.
That's how I used to do too. Like with my sun salutation, I would break it up. Like whenever I need a pick me up, I would just go out there and do few and then come back up like morning, in the middle of the day, and then afternoon. So each time I would have a pick me up. So it's like I don't need to spend anything on any caffeine or any chemical. It's just my body. I just stretch. I just go outside. I take that time for myself and I watch my breath. That's all I needed. So, yeah, that's beautifully how you break it out. And that's brilliant. And it works wonderfully because it won't make you feel guilty like, oh, I need to do this or that. But it's just that quick 10-minute burst,
Yeah.
just needed for the body and the mind.
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed too is a lot of people are because we sit so much. So it also
Yep.
breaks that. Um,
Yep.
there's a term called gluteal amnesia. And I'm going to give the credit to her name's Yoga with Joelle on YouTube, Joelle. That's who I follow a lot right now. But she said we have gluteal amnesia. And I was talking to my DO friend the other day. He goes, I'm going to adopt that because I call it dumb butt. And I was like, dumb butt? He's like, yeah, so I'm going to start calling it gluteal amnesia now.
Right.
But because we sit so much, so then we have hip
Right.
problems, we have knee problems, we have feet problems because when the glutes are not strengthened, then the whole lower body is controlled by those butt muscles. So we need to get those lazy glutes, gluteal amnesia, dumb butt. We need to working on those so that we can support our lower body.
Yeah, that's very true. Thank you for sharing all of this wonderful wisdom, Gail. Um, we appreciate you, and I totally loved my harmonic egg session. So, and for anybody out there who wants to try it, if you're not physically able to go to the harmonic egg, you can also have it virtually done, and that's a possibility. You can always contact a center or a place closer to you that has the harmonic egg, and they'll do it for you. And during that time, you just have to lay still and be present with your body. And I guess it does the magic because energy travels, intention is timeless and spaceless. So, and you will be held during that time. So, do try it out and see how you feel. Yeah, thank you, Gail. And we appreciate your time again. And thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. You asked some really thoughtful questions. Thank you.
And thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Take a deep breath, carry the peace with you, and I will see you next time.